"Trust me, you'll see again," said the street kid to the blind Heir. Richard Thompson watched his son from a distance, while Ethan remained motionless in the wheelchair, lost in his own thoughts for over 2 hours. The 18-year-old had shown no interest in anything since the accident that left him blind 2 years ago. That's when a boy who looked about 15 approached Ethan on the park bench. Jason had worn-out clothes and messy hair, but his eyes shone with a determination Richard hadn't seen in ages. "Hey, can you smell the flowers from here?" asked Jason, sitting next to Ethan. Ethan turned his face toward the voice, surprised. It had been months since anyone besides family had tried to talk to him. "Who are you?" Ethan replied defensively. "I'm Jason, and you must be Ethan, right? I see you here every day with your father." Richard took a few steps closer, ready to intervene, but something about the boy's calmness made him hesitate. "I don't need anyone's pity," said Ethan, bitter. Jason gave a low laugh that held no mockery, only understanding. "Pity? Man, I came here because I want to tell you something. Trust me, you'll see again." Ethan felt his heart race. For 2 years he'd heard those empty words from doctors and family, but something in that boy's voice was different. "You don't know what you're talking about," murmured Ethan. "Yes, I do. My grandfather was a doctor before he retired. He taught me some things about eyes that today's doctors don't know anymore." Richard moved closer, curious despite his suspicion. "And what would those things be?" asked Ethan, trying to keep skepticism in his voice. "There are special exercises. It's not magic or anything. It's real science, just old-fashioned. My grandfather always said that when we lose one sense, the others get stronger. But you have to train them right." Ethan remained silent for a long moment. Jason watched the expressions crossing the young heir's face. "Why do you want to help me?" Ethan finally asked. "Because I know what it's like when everyone looks at you with pity. It sucks, right?" The sincerity in Jason's voice touched something deep in Ethan. For the first time in months, he felt a genuine connection with someone. "My father is back there listening to everything," Ethan said quietly. "I know." "Hello, sir." Jason waved toward Richard, who emerged from behind the tree embarrassed. Richard approached slowly, studying the boy. Jason showed no nervousness or financial interest, only a genuine desire to help. "How do you know about my son?" asked Richard. "Sir, I've lived on the streets for 3 years. I know everyone in this neighborhood. I see you here all the time, and I see that Ethan is suffering a lot." Jason's raw honesty completely disarmed Richard. "And these exercises you mentioned?" Richard inquired. "My grandfather taught me before he passed. He said when medicine can't help anymore, we have to go back to basics. Stimulate what still works to awaken what's sleeping." Ethan shifted in his chair, interested despite himself. "Do you really believe you can help me?" asked Ethan. "I believe it's worth trying, but only if you want to. It won't work if I want it more than you do." Richard saw something he hadn't seen in 2 years. Hope in his son's eyes. "Dad, I want to try," said Ethan, turning toward where he knew Richard was standing. "Ethan, son, you've been through so many treatments. This one's different," Ethan interrupted. "I feel it's different." Jason smiled, even knowing Ethan couldn't see him. "Then let's start tomorrow. But there's one condition. You'll have to trust me completely. It might seem strange sometimes, but that's how it works." "I trust you," said Ethan without hesitation, surprising himself. Richard observed the determination on his son's face and made a decision that would change everything. "All right, but I want to be involved in everything," said Richard. "Of course, sir. Actually, that's better this way. Having the whole family involved works better." That night, Ethan could barely sleep. For the first time in 2 years, he felt something like hope growing in his chest. Richard also stayed up all night, researching alternative therapies for blindness. Part of him believed he was feeding his son false hope, but another part couldn't ignore the change he'd seen in Ethan after talking with Jason. The next morning, Ethan woke before his alarm and asked to go to the park earlier. Richard hadn't seen him so eager to leave the house since the accident. Jason was already waiting under the same tree with a small bag in his hand. "I brought some things," Jason said as he approached. "Let's start with smell and touch." "What do you mean?" asked Ethan. Your brain is used to receiving information through your eyes. Now we're going to teach it to receive through other pathways. And when it gets well trained in that, it'll be easier to awaken your vision again. Jason pulled some aromatic herbs and small objects with different textures from the bag. Close your eyes, said Jason, then laughed. I mean, relax as if you're going to sleep. Ethan smiled for the first time in weeks. Now take a deep breath and tell me what you feel. Jason passed a mint leaf near Ethan's nose. Mint, Ethan said immediately. Very good. But it's not just about identifying, it's about feeling with your full attention. Breathe again and tell me where you feel the scent in your body. Ethan breathed more slowly this time, focusing completely on the sensation. I feel it in my nostrils first. Then it goes down to my throat. It gives a feeling of freshness, like it's cleaning me from inside. Perfect. Now we're going to do this with textures. Jason placed a smooth stone in Ethan's hand. Don't tell me what it is. Tell me how it is. Ethan ran his fingers over the surface, exploring every detail. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. It's smooth, but not completely. There are some rougher parts. It's heavy. It seems like it was polished by water or wind for a long time. That's it. You're starting to see with your hands. Richard watched, fascinated. He hadn't seen Ethan so focused on anything since the accident. They spent 2 hours doing different exercises. Jason had Ethan identify distant sounds, subtle textures, mixed smells, but always asking him to describe the sensations, not just name things. That's enough for today, Jason said eventually. We'll continue tomorrow. Already? Asked Ethan, clearly disappointed. It's like physical exercise. If you overdo it, you get hurt. We'll gradually increase. When they returned home, Ethan was more excited than Richard had seen him in months. Dad, I felt things I'd never paid attention to before, Ethan said during lunch. What do you mean, son? I always used my eyes for everything. I never stopped to really taste food or smell things. It's like I discovered new senses. Richard became thoughtful. Maybe there really was something to those exercises. In the afternoon, Richard decided to investigate more about Jason. He asked acquaintances in the neighborhood and discovered the boy really lived on the street, but was respected by everyone. He helped shopkeepers, looked after younger children, never got into trouble. He showed up here about 3 years ago, said Mrs. Johnson, who had a snack shop on the corner. Thin as a rail, but always polite, said his grandfather had passed away and he had no one else. And this grandfather was really a doctor? Asked Richard. Oh yes, Dr. Franklin. He was quite well known in this neighborhood years ago. He had a small practice but treated everyone, even those who couldn't pay. He retired about 10 years ago. Richard felt more at ease knowing Jason's story was true. The next day, Jason arrived at the park with a water bottle and some branches from different plants. Today we're going to practice something new, Jason announced. What is it? Asked Ethan, excited. We're going to teach your brain to see through sound. Jason had Ethan sit on the ground and blindfolded his eyes with a clean cloth. But I already can't see, said Ethan, confused. Yes, but your brain still tries. Now it's going to stop trying and start doing things differently. Jason began walking around Ethan, clapping his hands in different spots. Tell me where I am. To my left. Now. Behind me. Very good. But it's not just about locating. Try to feel the whole space around you. Imagine the sound is light and you're seeing the entire area. Ethan took a deep breath and concentrated. Gradually, he began forming a mental image of the space based on echoes and the direction of sounds. It's strange, Ethan said after a few minutes. It's like I can feel the trees and the benches even without touching them. Exactly. That's called echolocation. Some animals use it to navigate in the dark. Richard was impressed with Jason's patience and knowledge. After a week of daily exercises, Ethan began showing visible changes. He walked with more confidence, smiled more, and had a better appetite. Son, you seem different, Richard commented during dinner. I feel different, Dad. It's like I'm waking up from a very long sleep. Richard smiled. He was finally seeing the son he knew gradually returning. but not everything was smooth sailing. In the second week, Margaret, Ethan's mother, returned from a business trip and was furious when she learned about the exercises. "Richard, have you lost your mind, leaving our son in the hands of a street kid? Margaret, you haven't seen the change in Ethan. He's better." "Better how? He's still blind, and now he's covered in dirt from those ridiculous exercises." The argument quickly heated up. "Mum, please," Ethan intervened. "Jason is really helping me." "Helping with what, Ethan? Giving you false hope?" "Helping me live again," Ethan replied firmly. Margaret fell silent for a moment, but wasn't convinced. "I'm going to find real doctors. Enough of this nonsense." Richard tried to mediate, but Margaret was unyielding. She scheduled appointments with renowned ophthalmologists from New York City and forbade Ethan from continuing the exercises. Ethan was devastated. "Dad, she can't do this to me," Ethan said, tears streaming down his face. "Son, she's worried about you. Maybe it's better to listen to a few more doctors." "Dad, you don't understand. For the first time in 2 years, I feel like there's hope. Jason isn't fooling me. I feel a difference in my body." Richard found himself torn between his wife and his son. In the following days, the tension at home increased. Ethan refused to speak with his mother and spent hours in his room, depressed. Jason showed up at the park every day, waiting for Ethan to arrive. Richard went there to explain the situation. "Sir, I understand your wife's concern," Jason said, "but Ethan was making progress. It's a shame to stop now." "Jason, maybe it's for the best. His mother has a right to be worried." "Can I ask you something, sir?" "Go ahead." "What do you think will happen if Ethan goes back to how he was before? Without hope, not wanting to try anything?" Jason's question struck Richard deeply. He knew Jason was right. That night, Richard had a serious conversation with Margaret. "Margaret, I know you're worried. I was too at first. But you need to see how happy Ethan was. Richard, we can't feed our son illusions. What if they're not illusions? What if there's really a chance? Do you really believe in this boy? I believe in our son, and he believes in Jason. That's already something." Margaret became thoughtful. She hadn't been present to see the changes in Ethan. "Let me at least meet this boy," Margaret finally said. Richard organized a meeting between Margaret and Jason at the park. Ethan was also present, tense about the situation. Jason politely introduced himself to Margaret, explaining the exercises without rushing, answering all her questions. "Why do you want to help my son?" Margaret asked directly. "Ma'am, my grandfather always said that when we can help someone, we should help. I see Ethan suffering and know I can do something. I don't expect anything in return." Jason's sincerity impressed Margaret. "And do you really believe you can cure my son's blindness?" "Ma'am, I don't promise a cure. I promise I'll help him develop the maximum potential he has. If his sight returns, great. If not, he'll have other resources to live better." Margaret looked at Ethan and saw something she hadn't seen in a long time, genuine hope in her son's eyes. "All right," Margaret said after a long silence, "but I want to be involved too." Ethan smiled openly for the first time since his mother's return. "You can start today, Mum. Jason brought new exercises." Jason restarted the exercises, now with the whole family participating. Margaret was impressed with the boy's methodology and patience. During the third week, something unusual happened. Ethan was doing a concentration exercise when he felt a strange sensation in his eyes. "Jason, my eyes are tingling," Ethan said, frightened. "That's a good sign. It means there's activity where there wasn't any before. But it's burning a little. That's normal. It's like when you don't use a muscle for a long time and then exercise it." Richard and Margaret exchanged hopeful glances. In the following days, the tingling repeated during the exercises. Jason explained they were signs that the brain was creating new connections. "It's like it's reopening pathways that were closed," Jason explained. A week later, during a meditation exercise, Ethan had an experience that changed everything. "Jason, I'm seeing something," Ethan said with a trembling voice. "What do you mean?" everyone asked at the same time. "It's not clear. It's like spots of light." but I'm sure I'm seeing. Jason contained his emotion. Stay calm. Don't force it. Just observe. Ethan remained silent for a few minutes, concentrating. The spots are moving. They get brighter when I look toward you. Margaret began to cry. Richard was speechless. This is amazing, murmured Richard. It's still the beginning, said Jason, keeping his feet on the ground. It might come and go several times before stabilizing. And Jason was right. In the following days, Ethan's vision came and went. Sometimes he could distinguish shadows. Other times he saw nothing. It's frustrating, complained Ethan after a day without progress. It's part of the process, reassured Jason. The brain is learning to use new circuits. It's like learning to walk again. Richard decided to seek a second medical opinion, but this time to understand what was happening, not to prohibit the exercises. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Dr. Williams, a respected ophthalmologist, carefully examined Ethan. This is interesting, said the doctor after the tests. There are signs of activity in the optic nerve that weren't present in previous exams. How is this possible? Asked Margaret. Sometimes the brain finds alternative pathways. It's rare but possible. The sensory exercises might be stimulating these connections. Richard felt relieved. It wasn't his imagination. Something real was happening. Dr. Williams suggested continuing the exercises under medical supervision, combining traditional methods with Jason's approach. But the good news was interrupted by an unexpected problem. During an exercise session in the park, a well-dressed man appeared looking for Jason. "You're Jason, right?" the man asked. "Yes, sir. I'm Dr. Anderson from the medical board. I've received reports that you're practicing medicine without a license." Richard's blood ran cold. He hadn't considered this legal aspect. "Doctor, I'm not practicing medicine," Jason explained calmly. "I'm just teaching exercises my grandfather passed down to me." "Your grandfather no longer holds a license to practice, and you never had one. This is illegal practice of medicine." Ethan panicked. "Doctor, please, Jason is really helping me." "I'm getting better. Young man, I understand your situation, but the law is clear. He needs to stop." Richard stepped forward. "Doctor, what my son is doing is rehabilitation, not medical treatment. We have professional supervision too. Even so, I need to investigate. The boy can't continue until this is clarified." Jason accepted the situation with resignation, but Ethan was desperate. "Dad, they can't do this. I was making progress." "Calm down, son. We'll sort this out." Richard hired a lawyer to clarify the legal situation. Meanwhile, Ethan had to stop the exercises. Within a few days, Ethan regressed emotionally. The partial vision he had developed began to weaken. "It's like I'm losing everything again," Ethan lamented. Jason, although formally prohibited from continuing the exercises, would show up at the park to talk with Ethan and keep his spirits up. "Ethan, what you've learned doesn't just disappear. It's just a forced break. But I feel like it's fading. That's because you're afraid. Fear blocks everything. You need to stay calm." The medical board's investigation revealed that Jason really wasn't practicing medicine illegally. The exercises were considered occupational therapy, which can be taught by non-medical personnel. Dr. Anderson had to withdraw the complaint, but the emotional damage was already done. Ethan had lost confidence and was depressed again. "Jason, I can't see the light spots anymore," Ethan said sadly. "It's temporary. We just need to rebuild your confidence." Richard saw that he needed to take more decisive action. "Jason, how would you like to come live with us?" Richard suddenly suggested. "What do you mean, sir?" "You could stay in the guest room. That way you and Ethan can do the exercises whenever you want, without depending on park hours." Margaret looked at her husband in surprise. "Richard, are you sure?" "I am. Jason is a good young man. And he's making a difference in our son's life." Jason was moved. He hadn't had a real home in 3 years. "I accept, sir, but only if the lady agrees too." Margaret looked at her son, who for the first time in days showed hope. "I accept," Margaret said, "but there are rules. You'll study, you'll help around the house, and the exercises are only a supplement to the medical treatment. I agree to everything, ma'am. Jason moved into the Thompsons' home that same week. Having his own room, regular meals, and a family was a radical change in his life. In return, he dedicated himself entirely to helping Ethan. The exercises became daily and intensive again. Now we're going to train absolute focus, Jason said. When you can concentrate completely, your vision will stabilize. They spent hours practicing meditation, breathing exercises, and deep relaxation techniques. Gradually, Ethan began to regain his partial vision. First, spots of light, then more defined shadows. Jason, I can see your face, said Ethan on a Sunday afternoon. Really, what do I look like? Dark hair, kind eyes. You're exactly as I imagined. Jason smiled emotionally. Months of work were paying off. Dr. Williams monitored the progress with regular checkups. The recovery is gradual but consistent, reported the doctor. It's an extraordinary case. But as Ethan improved physically, Jason began to face emotional problems. Living in a structured family brought to the surface the pain of losing his grandfather and the loneliness he had suppressed. Jason, are you okay? Asked Ethan, noticing his friend was quieter. Yes, I am. Just thinking about some things. What things? Jason hesitated before answering. Sometimes I miss my grandfather. He would be proud to see you getting better. Ethan realized Jason needed help too. Jason, you've told me a lot about the exercises your grandfather taught you, but you never talked about him as a person. He was everything to me. When my parents died in an accident, he raised me. He was a doctor, but also a healer. He said modern medicine forgot that healing is also about caring for the soul. How did he pass away? Asked Ethan delicately. He had a heart problem. It was quick. I was 15 and had no one else. That's why I ended up living on the streets. Ethan was touched by the story. Jason, you're not alone anymore. We're a family now. Thank you, Ethan. But sometimes I feel guilty. Guilty about what? For being okay when my grandfather is no longer here. Richard, who had overheard the conversation, approached. Jason, your grandfather would be proud to see you helping others. You're honoring his memory. This conversation marked a turning point in the relationship between Jason and the family. He stopped seeing himself as just a guest and began to feel truly part of the family. With the emotional support resolved, the exercises intensified even more. Let's try something new today, said Jason. Movement exercises. They went to the backyard of the house. Jason set up obstacles on a simple course. I want you to walk slowly, using only the vision you have now, without fear. Ethan, who could distinguish large shapes, walked carefully through the course. Very good, now faster. Each day the course became more complex, and Ethan gained more confidence in his limited vision. One afternoon, Margaret received an unexpected call. Mrs. Thompson, this is Dr. Richardson from a rehabilitation clinic in New York City. I heard about your son's case and would like to propose an experimental treatment. What kind of treatment? Gene therapy combined with neural implants. It's revolutionary, but expensive and risky. Margaret told the family about the proposal. I don't know, said Ethan. I'm progressing well with Jason. But son, it could be the chance to regain your vision completely. Or it could be the chance to lose the little I've already regained. Richard was divided. The proposal was tempting but risky. Jason, what do you think? Asked Richard. Sir, I think each person should choose their own path. I can only offer what I know. But do you think Ethan should try? I think Ethan should do what his heart tells him. Ethan thought for days about the decision. The family respected his time to decide. During this period of reflection, something happened that changed everything. One day, during a walking exercise in the backyard, Ethan tripped and fell. Jason ran to help him. Are you hurt? Asked Jason, worried. No, said Ethan, but his voice sounded strange. What is it? Jason, when I fell, for a second, I saw everything with total clarity. The colors, the details, everything. Jason was shocked. Are you sure? Absolutely. It was just a second, but I saw perfectly. They told Richard and Margaret, who were overjoyed. Dr. Williams was called to examine Ethan immediately. "Interesting," said the doctor after the examination. "It seems the trauma from the fall stimulated connections that were dormant." "Does that mean his vision could fully return?" asked Margaret. "It's possible, but let's take it slow. The important thing is to keep up the exercises and monitor the progress." In the following days, Ethan had other moments of complete vision, always during more intense exercises. "It's like my brain needs a jolt to fully wake up," Ethan observed. Jason developed specific exercises to stimulate these visual surges. "Let's do activities that require quick reactions," explained Jason. They began practicing adapted sports, reflex games, and activities that demanded intense concentration, followed by relaxation. Each week, the episodes of full vision became longer and more frequent. A month later, Ethan woke up and realized he could see normally. "Jason! Dad! Mom!" Ethan shouted, running through the house. "What is it, son?" asked Richard, startled. "I can really see." The family gathered in Ethan's room. He described everything he saw in meticulous detail. "Mom's flowers are more beautiful than I remembered," said Ethan, looking out the window. "Jason, your eyes are exactly as I imagined," said Ethan, looking directly at his friend. Jason was too emotional to speak. Dr. Williams confirmed Ethan's vision had fully returned. "In 40 years of medicine, I've never seen anything like it," the doctor admitted. "How is this possible?" asked Richard. "I can only speculate. The combination of sensory stimulation, neuroplastic exercises, and psychological determination created conditions for regeneration that we don't fully understand." "The important thing is that it worked," said Jason, finally finding his voice. "Jason, how can I thank you?" asked Ethan. "You don't need to thank me. Your grandfather would be proud of both of us." The news of Ethan's recovery spread quickly. Local newspapers wanted to interview the family. "Let's keep it discreet," decided Richard. "We don't want to exploit this." But the story reached Dr. Richardson, who called again. "Mr. Thompson, I heard your son regained his vision. We would like to study the case." "Doctor, we appreciate your interest, but we just want to move on with our lives." "I understand, but the method used could help other people." Richard discussed with Jason the possibility of sharing the exercises. "Sir, my grandfather always said that knowledge should be shared. If it can help others, I think we should consider it." After much reflection, they decided to collaborate with researchers to document the method, but without excessive exposure. Dr. Williams coordinated a scientific study of Jason's exercises, scientifically validating the techniques. "It's amazing how ancient methods can have a solid neurological basis," commented Dr. Williams. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us as we're just starting out. Now continuing. Jason was invited to study medicine with a full scholarship to formalize his knowledge. "I want to become a doctor like my grandfather," said Jason, "but without forgetting what he taught me about caring for people." Ethan decided to study psychology, inspired by the journey he had experienced. "I want to help people who have lost hope like I did," explained Ethan. The Thompson family created a small foundation to fund research on supervised alternative therapies. "We don't want to create false hope," explained Richard, "but we want to give opportunities to those who have no other options." 2 years later, Ethan and Jason were in university. Ethan was studying psychology, and Jason, medicine. They continued living together like real brothers. "Jason, sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like if you hadn't shown up that day," said Ethan during lunch. "You probably would have found another path," replied Jason. "Strong people always do." "I don't know. I was really lost." "But you had your family. They never gave up on you." Ethan looked around the university cafeteria, watching classmates talking and laughing. "It's funny how we appreciate simple things when we almost lose them," Ethan reflected. "My grandfather always said that we only truly see when we stop taking things for granted." During vacations, they returned to the park where it all began, now to help other people facing similar challenges. "Look," Jason said one afternoon, pointing to two boys playing near the bench where they first met. One of the boys was in a wheelchair and looked discouraged. The other was trying to cheer up his friend. "Should we talk to them?" suggested Ethan. They approached the boys. "Hi, guys. How's it going?" greeted Ethan. "Hi," replied the boy who wasn't in the wheelchair. "My friend here is feeling kind of sad." "Can I ask why?" said Jason, crouching to wheelchair level. "He lost movement in his legs in an accident. The doctors said there's no cure." Ethan and Jason exchanged a look. "You know, I had a similar problem," said Ethan, "and this brother of mine here helped me overcome it." "How?" asked the boy in the wheelchair, interested. "It's a long story, but the main thing is to never stop trying." They spent the whole afternoon talking with the boys, teaching some basic exercises and explaining neuroplasticity in simple terms. "Do you really think I can get better?" asked the boy in the wheelchair. "We can't promise anything," Jason said honestly, "but we can promise we'll help you try." When they returned home, Margaret noticed they were especially excited. "Did something good happen today?" she asked. "We met two boys who need help," Ethan shared. "And you're going to help them, if their parents allow it," said Jason. Richard smiled. He saw that the two young men had found their purpose in life. "You know you can count on our support," said Richard. "Thank you, Dad," said Ethan. "But this time we want to do things differently." "How so?" "We want to create an organized project, with medical supervision from the start, documented methodology, realistic expectations." Jason added, "We want to do things properly, so no one questions it and so it actually helps people." Richard felt proud of their maturity. During the following semester, Ethan and Jason developed a university extension project to assist children with disabilities through complementary therapies. The project was approved, and they secured a room at the university for sessions. Dr. Williams agreed to supervise the work voluntarily. "It's rewarding to see how you've transformed a personal experience into something that can benefit many," the doctor commented. The project's first patient was precisely the boy they met in the park. "John, this is Jason and Ethan," introduced Dr. Williams. "They're going to teach you some special exercises." John was nervous but curious. "Will these exercises make me walk again?" John asked directly. "We don't know," Ethan answered honestly, "but they'll help you discover what more you're capable of." Jason started with hand sensitivity exercises, similar to what he had done with Ethan. "Let's train your superpowers," Jason joked. "Superpowers?" asked John, interested. "Yes. When one part of your body doesn't work right, the other parts get stronger. Let's discover what your superpowers are." John loved the approach. In just a few weeks, he was excited and engaged. Although he hadn't regained movement in his legs, John developed extraordinary strength in his arms and impressive motor coordination. "Look what I can do," said John, demonstrating how he could transfer from his chair to other places with agility. "Amazing," praised Ethan. "You're becoming a Paralympic athlete." The improvement in John's self-esteem was remarkable. He started smiling again, making plans, dreaming about the future. John's parents were moved by the transformation. "You gave us our son back," said John's mother, crying. "He just needed to believe in himself again," explained Jason. The success with John attracted other patients. The project grew rapidly. Ethan and Jason had to organize a team of volunteer students to meet the demand. "I never imagined it would be so much work," commented Ethan, organizing the appointment schedule. "Good work," replied Jason. "My grandfather always said that work that does good for the soul doesn't tire you out." By the end of the project's second year, they had already treated more than 50 children. Not all had miraculous recoveries like Ethan, but all improved their quality of life and self-esteem. "The important thing isn't the physical cure," reflected Ethan during a team meeting. "It's restoring hope and dignity." Jason added, "And teaching that there are many ways to be happy and useful in the world." Dr. Williams documented all the cases in scientific articles that were published in medical journals. "You're contributing to important changes in rehabilitation medicine," said the doctor. During one of these publications, Ethan and Jason's story gained international attention. An American television network wanted to make a documentary about the case. "We don't want to become celebrities," said Ethan, "but if it can inspire other people—" They agreed to participate in the documentary, but with strict conditions on how the story would be told. "No sensationalism," demanded Jason. "We want to show that it's work, not a miracle." The documentary was well received and brought recognition to the work they were developing. Universities from other countries invited Jason to present his grandfather's methods. "It's surreal," said Jason during a video conference with Japanese researchers. "My grandfather was a simple doctor from the countryside of the United States." "But he had knowledge that modern medicine was losing," observed Ethan. "The international repercussion brought resources to expand the project. They managed to better equip the treatment room and hire physical therapists to monitor the exercises. Now we can treat more people and more safely," celebrated Jason. During their 4th year of college, Ethan and Jason received an unexpected proposal. The federal government wanted to include complementary therapy methods in the public health system. "Would you accept coordinating a pilot project?" asked the ministry representative. "It's a huge responsibility," said Ethan. "But it's the chance to help people who don't have resources," argued Jason. They accepted the challenge, but demanded the freedom to maintain the principles guiding their work. The pilot project was implemented in 5 public hospitals. Jason and Ethan traveled constantly to train teams and monitor results. "It's tiring but rewarding," said Ethan during a stop at the airport. "Imagine how many people will be able to help," dreamed Jason. The pilot project's results exceeded expectations. Patient satisfaction increased significantly, even in cases without physical improvement. "What you're proving is that caring for the emotional is as important as treating the physical," observed the project coordinator. In their final year of college, Ethan and Jason needed to choose their professional paths. Ethan was accepted into a master's program in rehabilitation psychology. Jason received a scholarship for a specialization in neurology with a focus on integrative medicine. "We're going to be apart for the first time," said Ethan melancholy. "Only physically," reassured Jason. "Our work together is just beginning." The graduation was a special moment for the entire family. Richard and Margaret were proud of the 2 sons they had raised. "You've become admirable men," said Margaret during the celebration dinner. "And it all started with a chance meeting in the park," recalled Richard. "It wasn't chance," said Jason. "My grandfather always said there are no coincidences, only necessary encounters." Ethan smiled, remembering how lost he had been that day in the park. "If someone had told me that dirty boy would completely change my life, I wouldn't have believed it. And if they had told me I would have a real family, I wouldn't have believed it either," replied Jason. During the break before their specializations began, they took a special trip. They returned to the city where it all started and visited Jason's grandfather's grave. "Thank you, Dr. Franklin," said Ethan, placing flowers on the grave. "Your grandson saved me, and I know it was you who taught him." Jason was moved. "He would be proud to see what all this has become," said Jason. They spent the day talking about the future and plans to expand their work even further. "I want to open a clinic that combines traditional medicine with your grandfather's methods," said Ethan. "And I want to research how those methods work in the brain," added Jason. "We can do this together, even from a distance." When they returned from the trip, a surprise was waiting at home. John, the project's first patient, had been selected for the Paralympic wheelchair basketball team. "You changed my life," said John, hugging them both. "Now I want to be an example for other kids too." "You already are," said Jason proudly. The farewell was difficult when it was time for Ethan and Jason to leave for their specializations in different cities. "We won't stop talking every day," promised Ethan. "And during breaks we'll continue the project," said Jason. Richard and Margaret said goodbye to both with heavy hearts full of pride. "Take care of yourselves," said Margaret, hugging them both like sons. "And remember, you'll always have a home here," added Richard. During the 2 years of specialization, Ethan and Jason kept in constant contact. Ethan developed his research on the psychological impact of integrative therapies. Jason studied neuroplasticity and how alternative sensory stimuli affect the brain. They collaborated from a distance, sharing discoveries and planning the future. "I'm finding amazing things about how the brain adapts," Jason would say during a video call. "And I'm proving that hope is literally medicine Ethan would reply. During breaks, they returned home and continued working at the university project, now coordinated by other students. "You created something that will keep growing," observed Dr. Williams. At the end of their specializations, they received job offers from different countries. "We could make a lot of money abroad," said Jason. "But our place is here," replied Ethan. "This is where it all began." They decided to return to their hometown and open the clinic they had always dreamed of. "Let's call it the Dr. Franklin Clinic," suggested Ethan. "Perfect," agreed Jason, moved. The clinic opened 5 years after graduation. It was a simple place, but equipped with the latest in rehabilitation technology, combined with the traditional methods of Jason's grandfather. Richard and Margaret helped with the initial investment. "It's our pleasure to contribute to something so important," said Richard during the opening. The clinic quickly gained national recognition. Patients came from all over the country seeking treatment. But Ethan and Jason maintained one principle: providing free care for those in need at least 3 days a week. "We can't forget where we came from," Jason would tell new employees. "And we can't forget that there are people who need hope, not just money to pay," Ethan would add. 10 years after its opening, the clinic had become an international reference. Ethan had earned a doctorate in psychology and become a university professor. Jason was a respected neurologist and renowned researcher, but they remained the same boys who met in the park. Every Sunday, they went to the same bench where it all began. "Sometimes it feels like a dream," Ethan said one such afternoon. "My grandfather used to say that dreams are projects that haven't happened yet," Jason replied. "I think we fulfilled his project. No, I think we carried it on. His project was infinite. They watched children playing in the park, some with disabilities, some without, all together. The world has changed a lot," Ethan observed. "Or maybe we've changed how we see the world," Jason philosophized. One special afternoon, as they chatted on the bench, a mother approached with her young daughter in a wheelchair. "Sorry to bother you. Are you Dr. Ethan and Dr. Jason from the clinic?" "Yes, we are," Ethan replied with a smile. "My daughter has a question for you." The girl, who must have been about 8 years old, looked at them curiously. "Is it true that you were like me when you were little?" Ethan and Jason smiled, touched by the question. "Not exactly like you," said Jason, crouching down to her level. "But we went through similar difficulties." "And did you get better?" "We became different," Ethan answered, "but very happy." "Can I be happy too?" "Yes, you can," said Jason. "And we'll help you, if you'd like." The girl beamed. "I'd like that." As the mother and daughter walked away, Ethan looked at Jason. "You know what's most amazing about this whole story?" "What?" "That it started with you having faith that I could get better, even without knowing me, and ended with us giving that faith back to other people. It hasn't ended. I don't think it ever will." Jason smiled, remembering his grandfather's words about helping people. "My grandfather always said that we don't die as long as someone continues the work we started. Then he'll live forever, and so will we." The sun began to set over the park. Ethan and Jason walked together toward the car, planning another day of work at the clinic. "Jason?" "Yes, Ethan. Thank you for trusting me that day." "Thank you for trusting me too." They laughed, remembering how young and insecure they were when they met. Now they were accomplished men, but they still maintained the same complicity and life purpose. At the clinic, a new generation of students and professionals continued the work they had started. Dr. Williams, already retired, still visited regularly to monitor the progress. "You created something bigger than you imagined," the old doctor said during a visit. "We just carried on what already existed," Jason replied. "My grandfather always knew about these things. And now other people are learning and taking it forward," Ethan added. John, the first patient, was now a Paralympic champion and ambassador for the clinic. "You not only helped me accept my condition," John said during a talk at the clinic. "You taught me that I could be useful and happy no matter what." The talk was attended by dozens of patients and family members. "The main message is this," John continued. There are no limitations, only different challenges. Ethan and Jason watched proudly as their first patient transformed. "He's speaking better than we do," Ethan joked. "That's how it should be," replied Jason. "Students surpassing their teachers." That evening, during a family dinner at the Thompsons' house, they talked about their future plans. Richard and Margaret, now in their 60s, listened with interest to their children's projects. "Have you thought about starting your own families?" Margaret asked delicately. Ethan and Jason exchanged glances. "Our family already exists," said Ethan. "It's you, the patients, our co-workers." "And besides," Jason added, "our work requires a lot of time and dedication." "But we haven't closed the door on love," said Ethan. "If someone special comes along who understands our mission—" "They'd be welcome," Jason finished. Richard smiled. "You're on the right path. Love can appear in many forms." 2 months later, during a medical conference, Ethan met Caroline, a physical therapist specialized in neurorehabilitation. "Your work is inspiring," said Caroline after watching Ethan's presentation. "Thank you. What do you work with specifically?" "Spinal cord injury rehabilitation. I use traditional methods, but I'm always looking for complementary approaches." Ethan was immediately interested in their professional affinity. They started talking about work and discovered they had much in common. "Would you like to visit our clinic?" Ethan invited. "I'd love to." Caroline visited the clinic the following week and was impressed. "You've truly managed to unite science and humanism," she observed. Jason liked Caroline's simplicity and knowledge. "She understands what we do," Jason told Ethan after the visit. "And she seems to genuinely like it, not just out of curiosity." Ethan and Caroline began corresponding regularly, exchanging professional experiences that gradually became personal. "I think I'm falling in love," Ethan confessed to Jason a few months later. "She's a good person, and she shares your values. You don't mind?" "Why would I mind?" "It's always been just the two of us. Our partnership might change," Jason laughed. "Ethan, our partnership was meant to grow, not to hold us back. If you're happy, I'm happy." 1 year later, Ethan and Caroline got married in a simple ceremony at the clinic. Caroline moved to the city and began working as a partner at the clinic. "Now there are 3 of us," Jason joked in the wedding speech. "3 musketeers of rehabilitation," said Caroline, hugging them both. Caroline's arrival brought new ideas and energy to their work. She implemented hydrotherapy and equine therapy techniques that perfectly complemented the methods they were already using. "We're becoming a comprehensive rehabilitation center," observed Dr. Williams. 2 years after the wedding, Ethan and Caroline had their first child. "What should we name him?" Ethan asked during the pregnancy. "How about Sebastian?" Caroline suggested, in honor of Jason's grandfather. Jason was moved by the tribute. "My grandfather would be very honored," said Jason, nearly crying. Sebastian was born on a sunny spring day. Jason became the godfather and unofficial uncle, completely involving himself in the child's upbringing. "Now we have an heir to continue the work," Ethan joked. "If he wants to," said Jason. "Everyone should choose their own path." "Like you chose to help a stranger in the park," Caroline reminded him. "And changed all our lives," Ethan completed. Little Sebastian grew up surrounded by love and purpose. From an early age, he saw people with disabilities as a normal part of life. "Uncle Jason, why doesn't that boy walk?" Sebastian asked at 5 years old. "Because his legs work differently, but see how fast he is in his wheelchair." "That's true, he's really cool." "Exactly. Every person has their own special way of being." Sebastian grew up with this mindset of acceptance and appreciation of differences. At 10 years old, he was already helping at the clinic during school breaks, playing with the young patients. "He has a knack for this," Caroline observed. "He really does," Jason agreed. "But let's not pressure him, let him figure it out on his own." Sebastian truly showed a natural interest in the medical field. By 15, he already knew he wanted to pursue medicine. "I want to be a doctor like you," Sebastian said. "Are you sure?" Ethan asked. "It's a big responsibility." "I am. I want to help people like you do." Jason smiled, remembering when he had made the same decision. "Then we'll teach you everything we know," Jason said. During high school, Sebastian interned at the clinic, learning both the technical and human aspects of medicine. He's absorbing everything like a sponge, Caroline observed, and he maintains the sensitivity to deal with people, Ethan added. He's just like his father and uncle, Jason said proudly. When Sebastian graduated from high school, the clinic had already become a rehabilitation complex with multiple specialties. Ethan headed the psychology department, Caroline the physical therapy department, and Jason the neurology department. They trained doctors and therapists from across the country in the integrative methods they had developed. "You've created a school of thought," said an international visitor. "We just continued ancient teachings," Jason replied modestly. "Combined with modern science," Ethan added. Sebastian was accepted into the medical school at the same university where his parents had studied. "It's a cycle that closes and begins again," Jason philosophized during the celebration. "I hope I can make a difference like you did," Sebastian said. "You already make a difference just by existing," Caroline said, hugging her son. During college, Sebastian remained involved with the clinic during breaks. He brought new perspectives and technologies that helped modernize the treatments even further. "The new generation has access to resources we never dreamed of," Ethan commented. "But they maintain the same human values," Jason observed. "Because they were well raised," Caroline added. In his 4th year of medical school, Sebastian developed a research project on his great-grandfather Sebastian's methods. "I want to scientifically prove why Grandpa's exercises work," Sebastian explained. "That would be incredible," Jason said. "My grandfather would be proud to know his teachings became official science." Sebastian's research was accepted at international conferences and caught the attention of universities worldwide. "You've created a scientific and human legacy," Sebastian's advisor said. "Actually, we just preserved knowledge that was being lost," Jason corrected. When Sebastian graduated as a doctor, the clinic celebrated with a special party. Dr. Williams, now over 80, was still present. "I saw you start as idealistic students," the old doctor said. "Now you're a worldwide reference. And it all started with a chance meeting in the park," Richard, also present, recalled. "It wasn't chance," Jason said, repeating his grandfather's words. "It was necessary." Margaret, now a doting grandmother, watched proudly over the family she had helped shape. "You gave me the best gift a mother can have," she said. "Children who do good in the world." Sebastian decided to do his residency in neurology, following in his uncle Jason's footsteps. "I want to better understand how the brain works to improve the methods you developed," he explained. "Medicine is evolving very quickly," Jason said. "You'll have resources we never imagined. But always remembering that the foundation is human care," Ethan added. During his residency, Sebastian divided his time between the hospital and the clinic. He implemented new neuroimaging technologies that allowed visualizing how the exercises affected the brain in real time. "This is revolutionary," said Jason, looking at the images. "We can see exactly what's happening during the exercises. And adapt the treatment for each person individually," added Sebastian. Sebastian's discoveries took the clinic to a new scientific level. They began receiving patients from other countries and training doctors internationally. "I never imagined we'd come this far," confessed Ethan during a meeting. "My grandfather always said that when you plant a good seed, it grows beyond what you imagine," replied Jason. Sebastian finished his residency as one of the top students in his class. He returned to work full-time at the clinic, bringing all the knowledge he had acquired. "Now, we're a complete team," said Caroline during the welcome meeting. "4 generations working together," observed Jason, thinking of his grandfather, himself, Ethan, and now Sebastian. "And many more generations will come," added Ethan. One special day, 25 years after the meeting in the park, Ethan and Jason returned to the bench where it all began. Sebastian joined them, curious to learn more about the origin of the family's story. "It was right here," said Ethan, sitting on the same bench. "I was desperate, without hope," Ethan continued, "and Jason appeared out of nowhere offering help." "It wasn't out of nowhere," corrected Jason. "I had been watching you for days, thinking about how to help." "Really? You never told me that." "I didn't want you to think it was planned. I preferred it to seem natural." Sebastian laughed. "Uncle Jason, you've always been a strategist." "I learned from my grandfather. He said that sometimes we need to create opportunities that seem coincidental. And it worked, said Ethan. It completely changed my life. It changed all of our lives, corrected Jason. They stayed silent for a few minutes, watching the park's activity. Children played, people walked, life followed its natural course. Do you think you'd do it all over again the same way? Asked Sebastian. Ethan and Jason looked at each other. Yes, they answered in unison. Even knowing the difficulties, the uncertainties, insisted Sebastian. Especially because of them, said Jason. The difficulties made us grow, and the uncertainties taught us to trust, added Ethan. Sebastian absorbed the wisdom of the two men who raised him. I hope I have the same courage you had. You already do, said Ethan. You just need the right opportunity to show it. When they returned from the park visit, they found a surprise at the clinic. An international delegation had arrived to propose a partnership. We want to open clinics using your methods in other countries, explained the representative. Ethan, Jason, and Sebastian met to discuss the proposal. It's an incredible opportunity to expand the work, said Sebastian. But we have to ensure the values are maintained, considered Jason. And that it doesn't just become a business, added Ethan. They decided to accept the partnership, but with strict conditions about training and supervision. We want to train doctors who understand the philosophy behind the methods, Jason explained to the partners. It's not enough to teach the techniques. You have to teach them to see each patient as a unique person, added Ethan. The international expansion project was implemented gradually. Sebastian was put in charge of traveling and supervising the implementation in other countries. It's a big responsibility, said Caroline when Sebastian left for his first trip. He's prepared, reassured Jason. He has everything he needs, knowledge, sensitivity, and solid values. Ethan agreed. And he knows he can always count on us. Sebastian's travels were a success. He managed to implement the methods while maintaining the humanistic essence that characterized them. Doctors from other countries are impressed with the holistic approach, reported Sebastian in a video conference. And the patients? Asked Caroline. They're responding just as well as here. It proves that good principles work anywhere. 5 years later, there were partner clinics in 10 countries. All followed the same protocols and philosophy developed by Ethan and Jason. You've started a worldwide movement, observed Dr. Williams during a visit. Actually, we revived universal principles that had been forgotten, corrected Jason. What matters is that it's helping people everywhere, said Ethan. During an international conference on integrative medicine, Ethan and Jason were honored for their contribution to the field. It's surreal to receive recognition for doing what we love, said Ethan during the speech. But it's rewarding to know our personal experience has become hope for others, added Jason. Sebastian, now the international coordinator of the project, watched proudly as his parents received the honor. They deserve all the recognition, said Sebastian during an interview. They turned personal pain into a healing tool for others. After the conference, the family gathered to celebrate. Richard and Margaret, now in their 70s, were moved by their children's recognition. When you came home that day talking about exercises in the park, I never imagined it would go this far, said Margaret. Neither did we, admitted Ethan. We just wanted to help. And you ended up changing medical paradigms, observed Richard. Jason smiled, remembering his grandfather's words about seeds that grow beyond expectations. My grandfather always said that when you do things out of love, they grow on their own. One afternoon, while working at the clinic, a boy arrived with his parents. It was a case similar to Ethan's. He had lost his sight in an accident 2 years earlier. Doctor, we heard about your work, said the father. Our son is very depressed. Ethan and Jason exchanged glances, remembering their own story. What's your name? Asked Jason, crouching to the boy's level. Peter, the boy replied softly. Peter, I'm going to tell you a story, said Ethan. It's about 2 boys who met in a park and changed each other's lives. How so? Asked Peter, interested. One of them had lost his sight and had no hope left. The other knew special exercises his grandfather had taught him. Peter listened carefully as Ethan told the whole story. And did they succeed? Asked Peter at the end. They did, said Jason. And now they help other people. Can you help me too? We can try, said Ethan. But there's one condition. What? You have to trust us completely. Peter thought for a moment. I trust you, he said finally. Jason smiled, hearing exactly the same words Ethan had spoken years before. Then let's begin, said Jason. Sebastian watched the scene from the doorway. Once again, history was repeating itself, bringing hope where there had been despair. The cycle continues, Sebastian murmured to himself. He thought of his great-grandfather he'd never met, but whose teachings still transformed lives. Thank you, Grandpa Sebastian, he whispered, looking upward. Your wisdom will never die. That afternoon, while Jason began the first exercises with Peter, Ethan watched through the window. In the park across from the clinic, children played together, some with disabilities, some without. It was a different world from when he was young. A world where differences are accepted and valued, thought Ethan. Sebastian approached the window. Dad, do you think we've made a difference? Ethan looked at his son, then at Jason patiently teaching Peter, then at the children playing in the park. I think we planted seeds that will keep germinating for a long time. Sebastian smiled. And I'll make sure they keep sprouting. I know you will. You have everything you need. Knowledge, compassion, and most importantly, faith in people. Jason joined them at the window after finishing his session with Peter. How did it go? Asked Ethan. He's just like you used to be, scared but willing to try. Everything will work out, Ethan said with certainty. How do you know? Because you're taking care of him, and you never give up. Jason smiled, thinking about how life had been generous to all of them. My grandfather used to say that life gives us exactly what we need to grow. Sometimes it comes disguised as a problem, but it's always an opportunity. Your blindness was my opportunity to grow, said Jason. And your loneliness was my opportunity to have a brother, Ethan replied. And you two were my opportunity to have a family, added Sebastian. They watched the city movement through the window. The clinic had become a fundamental part of the community. People came from far away seeking treatment, but a local support network had also formed. We created more than a clinic, Jason observed. We created a community. A community based on acceptance and human potential, Ethan completed. When the sun began to set, they wrapped up another workday. On their way out, they passed by the park, where everything had begun. The bench was still there, a silent witness to the encounter that changed so many lives. Sometimes I come here just to remember where we started, Jason confessed. Me too, said Ethan. It helps me remember what really matters. What's that? Asked Sebastian. That we never know how a simple gesture can change everything, Jason replied. And that it's always worth betting on people's potential, Ethan added. Sebastian absorbed his parents' words. I'll remember that when I start seeing my own patients. And when you have your own children, said Ethan. So they can continue the work, asked Sebastian. So they can do whatever makes them happy, Jason corrected. If they continue our work, great. If it's something else, that's fine too. What matters is that they're good people, Ethan completed. They walked together to the car, talking about plans for the next day. In the car, Jason drove, while Ethan and Sebastian discussed a new research project. I want to study how exercises affect autistic children, said Sebastian. That's a good idea, Ethan supported. There might be specific adaptations that help with this condition. I'll talk with some specialists, said Jason. I have colleagues who work with autism. Will you help me once again? Min asked Sebastian. Always, they both answered in unison. When they got home, Caroline had already prepared dinner. How was your day? She asked, hugging all three. A new boy arrived, a case similar to mine, Ethan shared. And Sebastian had a new research idea, Jason added. You guys never stop, do you? Caroline joked. It's an addiction, Ethan admitted. An addiction to helping people. During dinner, they talked about the clinic's future plans. Sebastian wanted to implement a prevention program in schools. Identifying children early who could benefit from the exercises, he explained. Before they even develop serious problems, Jason completed. That's integrative preventive medicine, Caroline observed. A new concept. Everything we do ends up becoming a new concept, Ethan laughed. "But it's really just old common sense." After dinner, Jason went up to his room and took a yellowed letter from a drawer. It was the last letter his grandfather had written before passing away. He read it whenever he needed guidance. "My dear Jason, if you're reading this, it means I've already passed on, but don't worry. I planted seeds of knowledge in you that will grow and multiply. Always remember, healing isn't just treating symptoms. It's restoring hope and dignity to people. Use what I taught you to do good, and never forget that true medicine comes from the heart. Your grandfather who loves you, Dr. Franklin." Jason folded the letter carefully and put it away. "Thank you, Grandpa," he murmured. "I think we're doing it right." In the next room, Ethan was writing in his journal, a habit he'd maintained since adolescence. "Today a boy arrived who reminded me exactly of how I used to be, scared, lost, hopeless. Watching Jason begin working with him made me remember how everything started. Sometimes I think we live several lives in one. The life before the accident, the life of recovery, the life of helping others. Each one was necessary to get where we are today. I'm grateful for all of them, including the difficult parts. They made me who I am." In his room, Sebastian was studying articles about autism, preparing for the new project. He was excited about the possibilities of adapting his great-grandfather's methods for a new condition. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow, he thought, repeating words he'd heard his whole life. Caroline, in the couple's bedroom, was organizing the day's reports from the clinic. She felt privileged to be part of this special family. "I never imagined I'd find such a clear purpose in life," she reflected. When everyone was asleep, the house fell silent. But it was a silence full of peace and fulfillment. The next morning, another workday began at the clinic. Peter arrived for his second session, visibly more upbeat. "Last night I could smell scents I'd never paid attention to before," he told Jason. "Very good. Your brain is awakening to new stimuli." "Is it true you were blind too?" "Not me. My brother Ethan. I taught him the same exercises I'm teaching you." "And did he get better?" "He did. But it wasn't quick or easy. It required a lot of work and patience." "I have patience," Peter said with determination. Jason smiled. Determination was the first step toward any recovery. While Jason worked with Peter, Ethan was seeing a family with an autistic child. "We heard you developed special methods," said the mother. "We're still studying adaptations for autism," Ethan explained honestly, "but we can try some approaches." Ethan started with simple sensory exercises, observing how the child reacted. "He seems calmer during the exercises," the father observed. "That's a good sign. Let's continue and see how he progresses." By late morning, Sebastian arrived to discuss his autism research project. "I spoke with specialists yesterday," he reported. "They think our approach could really help." "Great," said Jason. "We can start with some pilot cases." "I already have an interested family," said Ethan. "Perfect. Let's document everything from the beginning." During lunch, they planned the details of the new project. "I want it to be as rigorous as possible," said Sebastian, "so it has complete scientific credibility." "I agree," Jason supported, "but without losing the human touch. It's possible to combine scientific rigor with human sensitivity," said Ethan. "We've done that from the beginning." In the afternoon, a special visitor arrived at the clinic. It was John, the first patient, now 25 years old. "I came to show you something," John said, smiling. He pulled a gold medal from his backpack. "I won it at the World Paralympic Championship." Ethan, Jason, and Sebastian were thrilled. "John, we're so proud," said Ethan, hugging the young man. "You completely changed my life," said John. "Now I want to give back." "How so?" asked Jason. "I want to work with you. Help other children like you helped me." "But you have your sports career," Sebastian observed. "I can manage. Training in the morning, work in the afternoon. I want to set an example that it's possible to overcome any obstacle." John's proposal was accepted immediately. He became the official motivator at the clinic, sharing his story with new patients. "Seeing John is living proof that our methods work," said Jason. "And he's an inspiration for those just starting out," added Ethan. With John on the team, the clinic gained an even more human dimension. Patients felt more confident seeing someone who had gone through the same experience. John has something we don't have, observed Sebastian, the personal experience of overcoming. It's true, agreed Jason. We help because we learned and studied. He helps because he lived it. That's why the team is complete, said Ethan. Months later, the Autism Project began to show promising results. The children demonstrated improvements in communication and reduction in repetitive behaviors. The sensory exercises seemed to reorganize brain connections, explained Sebastian in a scientific meeting. We're seeing measurable changes in the tests, confirmed Jason, and above all changes in the family's quality of life, added Ethan. The success of the Autism Project attracted attention from international universities. We want to replicate the study in our country, said a European researcher. With pleasure, replied Sebastian, but following our protocols. Of course, we want to maintain the integrity of the method. The international expansion of the Autism Project was approved. Sebastian would spend 6 months in Europe implementing the program. This will be your first solo international mission, said Ethan proudly. I'm nervous but excited, admitted Sebastian. You're prepared, reassured Jason. You have the knowledge and sensitivity, and you know you can count on us for any questions, added Caroline. Sebastian's farewell was emotional. The entire clinic team gathered to say goodbye. Take our values with you, said John during the farewell. And bring back new experiences, completed Dr. Williams. I'll miss everyone, said Sebastian, but I know it's important to take our work forward. During Sebastian's 6-month absence, the clinic continued operating normally. He maintained daily contact via video conference, reporting progress and asking for guidance. The European doctors are impressed with the results, he reported in a call. And the patients? Asked Caroline. Responding just as well as here. Proof that good methods work universally. Jason felt proud of Sebastian's professional and personal growth. He's becoming a true leader, he commented to Ethan. It was inevitable. He had the best examples, replied Ethan, smiling. When Sebastian returned from Europe, he brought valuable experiences. I learned a lot about cultural adaptations of the methods, he reported. How so? Asked Jason. Each culture has its particularities. The exercises are the same, but the approach needs to be adapted. Interesting, observed Ethan. We never thought about that. It's natural evolution, said Sebastian. Our methods are going global. Sebastian's European experience resulted in a book about intercultural integrative medicine. I want to document how to adapt our methods for different cultures, he explained. Great idea, supported Jason. It will facilitate future expansions. Sebastian's book became a reference in the field. Universities worldwide began using it as teaching material. You've created a medical dynasty, joked Dr. Williams. We created a family dedicated to helping people, corrected Jason. It's the same thing, laughed the old doctor. During an international conference, the family received a special award for contribution to humanistic medicine. This award isn't ours, said Ethan in his speech. It belongs to all the people who trusted our methods and allowed us to help. It belongs to the patients who taught us as much as we taught them, Jason added. And it belongs to the future generations who will continue this work, Sebastian concluded. The audience rose in a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. It's moving to see the work recognized, Caroline said after the ceremony. But the real reward is the patient's smiles, said Jason. And knowing we planted seeds that will keep growing, Ethan added. That night, the family dined at a special restaurant to celebrate. Richard and Margaret, now in their 80s, were present. You've made us prouder than we ever dreamed, said Margaret. And most importantly, you've become good people, Richard added. Jason was moved. Thank you for taking me in as your son when I had no one. Thank you for saving our son when we didn't know how, Margaret replied. Ethan looked around the table and saw his complete family. My grandfather used to say that life gives us exactly what we need, said Jason. Today I understand that you were exactly what I needed. And you were exactly what I needed, Ethan replied. And we were what you both needed to grow, said Caroline. It's a family chosen by fate, Sebastian philosophized. After dinner, they walked through the streets of the city where it all began. The Dr. Franklin Clinic was lit up in the distance, also operating during the night. We created something bigger than ourselves, Jason observed. That will continue to exist regardless of us, Ethan added. And touching lives long after we're gone, Sebastian completed. They stopped in front of the park where everything had started 30 years earlier. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we hadn't met that day, said Ethan. We probably would have found other ways to help each other, Jason replied. People who need to meet always find a way. Do you really believe that? Asked Sebastian. I do, said Ethan. There are too many coincidences in our story for it to be just chance. My grandfather called it synchronicity, explained Jason. When things align for something important to happen. Sebastian smiled. Then our whole family is a synchronicity. The most beautiful one I've ever experienced, said Caroline. They stood in silence for a few minutes, watching the night park. Tomorrow we start again, Jason eventually said. New patients, new challenges, Ethan added. And new opportunities to make a difference, Sebastian completed. When they returned home, each reflected on the journey they had taken. Jason thought of his grandfather and how proud he would be to see where they had reached. Ethan thought about how losing his sight, which seemed like the end of everything, had become the beginning of a life full of purpose. Sebastian thought about the responsibility of continuing such an important legacy. Caroline thought about the luck of being part of such a special family. The next morning, a new day began at the clinic. Peter, who could now distinguish shapes and colors, arrived for his monthly follow-up session. Dr. Jason, I managed to read a word yesterday, he announced excitedly. Really? What word? Asked Jason, equally excited. Hope. It was written on the school wall, and I could read it. Jason was moved by the symbolism of the first word Peter managed to read. It couldn't have been a better word, said Jason. Do you think I'll be able to read normally? I think you already are, Jason replied. One word at a time. Ethan, who had overheard the conversation, approached. Peter, want to know a secret? What? The first word I could read when my sight returned was hope, too. Really? Asked Peter, amazed. Really? And do you know where it was written? Where? On a plaque that Jason had put on my bedroom wall. Peter looked at Jason, who smiled, confirming the story. Did you do that on purpose? Asked Peter. I did. Because hope is the first thing we need to recover. And the last thing we should lose, Ethan added. Peter left the session more motivated than ever. I think he will fully recover, said Jason to Ethan. I'm sure. He has the same determination I had. And the same support you had. During the afternoon, a family arrived with an autistic girl to begin the new program. Sebastian took on the case personally. Hi, Sophia. I'm Dr. Franklin. Shall we do some fun exercises together? Sophia hid behind her mother, shy. She's very reserved, explained the mother. No problem. We'll go at her own pace, reassured Sebastian. He started with subtle exercises, respecting the girl's space. Gradually, Sophia became interested in the activities. She never stays still for this long, observed the father, surprised. The exercises have a calming effect, explained Sebastian. They help organize sensations. At the end of the session, Sophia timidly waved to Sebastian. That was excellent progress for the first day, he told the parents. When is the next session? Asked the mother, excited. Tomorrow, if you'd like. We'd like to. For the first time, we see real hope. Sebastian smiled. The word hope appeared constantly in his work. At the end of the day, the team gathered to evaluate the appointments. All cases are progressing well, reported John. And 3 new patients arrived this week, added Caroline. Demand is growing, observed Jason. Maybe it's time to consider expanding the team, suggested Ethan. Or opening a second location, proposed Sebastian. Let's think it through carefully, said Jason. Expansion is only worthwhile if we maintain quality. I agree, supported Ethan. I'd rather serve fewer people well than many people poorly. During dinner at home, they continued discussing the clinic's direction. Have you ever thought about starting a medical school? Suggested Caroline. How so? Asked Jason. Teaching your methods to new doctors right from medical school. That's an interesting idea, said Ethan. Training a new generation with our integrative vision from the start. It would be revolutionary, added Sebastian. doctors who combine science and humanism from the beginning. Let's research the feasibility, decided Jason. The medical school idea gained momentum in the following weeks. They spoke with university presidents and gained support for the project. It would be the first integrative medicine school in the country, said one president during a meeting. And perhaps in North America, added another. The medical school project was approved after 2 years of processing. We will train doctors who see the patient as a whole person, said Jason during the approval ceremony. And who know that healing goes beyond treating symptoms, Ethan added. The school's construction took 3 years. During this period, they continued working at the clinic and preparing the innovative curriculum. We want to unite the best of traditional medicine with our humanistic approach, explained Sebastian. When the school opened, it had its first class of 50 students. Ethan became academic director, Jason scientific director, and Sebastian coordinator of practical internships. This is the culmination of everything we've built, said Jason during the inaugural class. And the beginning of a new phase, added Ethan. The school's first students proved exceptional. They combined solid technical knowledge with refined human sensitivity. These students will revolutionize American medicine, prophesied Dr. Williams, now 90 years old but still lucid. 5 years after the first class, the school was already internationally recognized. Students from other countries came to study the integrative methods. We've created a world-class center of excellence, remarked an international visitor. We've created a new way of seeing medicine, corrected Jason. During a special graduation ceremony, 10 years after the school's founding, Ethan gave a moving speech. You are proof that it's possible to unite science and compassion, he told the graduates. Take this learning wherever you go and keep planting seeds of hope. Jason added, and always remember, every patient is a unique person with their own story and potential. Sebastian concluded, you carry a legacy of 4 generations. Honor it by doing good wherever you are. The audience was moved by the words of the 3 teachers. After the ceremony, the family gathered to celebrate another achievement. Richard and Margaret, now 85 years old, still attended all important celebrations. We never imagined our family would generate so many positive transformations, said Richard. And it's not over yet, added Margaret. These seeds will keep germinating for generations. Jason thought of his grandfather and how proud he would be to see the reach of his teachings. My grandfather planted a small seed, reflected Jason. Today, it's a whole forest. A forest that bears fruits of hope, Ethan poetically said. That night, Jason returned alone to the park where it all began. He sat on the same bench and watched the full moon. Thank you, Grandpa, he said softly, for everything you taught me and for guiding me to this family. A gentle breeze rustled the trees as if it were a loving response. Jason smiled and returned home, where his chosen family awaited him. At the entrance, Ethan was waiting for him. Where did you go? Asked Ethan. To talk with my grandfather, Jason replied naturally. Did he answer? Asked Ethan without irony. He always answers. Through you, the patients, the students, he is in everything we do. Ethan hugged his brother. And he always will be. They entered together, closing another day of a life dedicated to turning pain into hope. End of story. Now tell me what you thought of this story. Do you believe that the strength of friendship and determination can truly overcome any obstacle? Leave your honest opinion in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. If this story touched your heart in any way, don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories that prove miracles happen when we least expect them.